Hey guys, it's Charlie here. So what I have here is a twofold list of my top 10 that I've seen of 2025 so far, but also my top 10 movies in general, which is relevant because The Long Walk is on both of the list. And I figured this would just be the best way to kind of compare where things are in my favorites. So this is my personal list. Agree to disagree. This is just where my head is at in my favorites. So we'll start with the top 10 of 2025. I will be reading off a list for this. So there should be no mistaking placement. And sometimes it's easier reading off the list instead of off the head because sometimes I forget. Okay, so honorable mention for 2025 so far. It is going to be Companion, which came out in January. It is a story about an AI that becomes sentient. Great movie. It just unfortunately did not make it into the top 10 anymore because there have just been so many movies that have been really, really good this year, at least in my opinion. Okay, so number 10 is The Naked Gun. It is great to see spoofs making a comeback, and it's also great to see Liam Neeson doing comedy, taking the place of Leslie Nielsen in The Naked Gun, and I hope that we get to see more of the new Frank Drebin. Okay, number 9. This one kind of went down. Hey, Onyx, in my list. It is Final Destination Bloodlines. It's a great movie. My personal favorite of the sequels for Final Destination. This one just holds a place still, personally, for me, because it's the last movie that Tony Todd did, and they really did the right move, I feel, in focusing the story on Tony Todd's character. It's essentially his story of how he is the way he is and how he knows what he knows, and it was the best send-off possible for a legend, because Tony Todd is a legend. Okay, so number 8 is another Stephen King adaptation, which is The Life of Chuck. This one did not get a very wide release, so it was kind of hard for me to be able to see it. I did not see it in theaters. I saw it at home. And it's a great story. It is a great movie. It is great to see Tom Hiddleston doing Stephen King. Hey, Starla. And I really suggest that people try and watch The Life of Chuck for what it is, because it's a great movie and a very relevant movie. Same as The Long Walk. Now, number 7... Jurassic World Rebirth. Now, I know a lot of people did not like Rebirth. My argument is there were parts of Rebirth that were slow. I'm going to admit that. There are parts at the beginning that are slow when you're getting like the backstory of the mercenaries. I feel a lot of that could have been condensed down a bit. But what stands out for me, and always stands out for me with the Jurassic Park movies, is the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs felt back to being primal, like monster movie animals. That's the way they're supposed to be. It's like the very first sequel to the original Jurassic Park, The Lost World. They were very primal in that movie, and I like that we kind of went back to that, kind of. That's where I feel the dinosaurs just feel at home. They're primal animals, and that's it. That's really all they need to be. Like, I just feel Jurassic World movies were great. I really like Dominion. I'm one of the few people that also like Dominion. I just feel that when you humanize them too much, and sometimes when you try to refine CGI so much, it just, you define it so much, it just becomes faker. Like, it doesn't feel realistic. And I just like that we toned it back and just went with making them primal, realistic animals. Because these are animals that have primal instinct. And that's the way the dinosaurs should be. Okay, so number 6, Fantastic Four First Steps. That is probably the best Fantastic Four movie that I've seen, and the perfect depiction of what the right Galactus should look like. And I like that they toned back the humor to just focus on delivering a good story, because that's what this was. This Fantastic Four movie was a good story with the Fantastic Four being the Fantastic Four in their universe. You saw living, breathing Fantastic Four, Pedro Pascal being Reed Richards. They were all smart. They knew how to treat the characters with intelligence, including Johnny Storm. And that's the way I like to see my Fantastic Four, is they have intelligence. They're perfect. They're not witty bantering with each other the way that some Marvel movies kind of have that tendency to do now. They're just human, and the human part is what makes Fantastic Four First Steps work the best, because they are a team who all contribute intelligence. And that's all I'm really going to say about that one. Okay, now number 5 is Thunderbolts. I still really love Thunderbolts because it is a statement about mental illness and people finding help with mental illness, and the ways that they can find help for themselves. And I like that it was a scaled backstory instead of it being like a world-changing event where it's just face your inner darkness. That was literally what made Thunderbolts work for me, because it's just how society is these days. There's mental illness in this world, unfortunately. People need help with what they got going on sometimes, and sometimes they can't get the help that they need because they essentially get forgotten about, because some people look down and discourage talking about mental illness. And I feel that is definitely very wrong in society. Okay, so number 4 is Weapons. I really feel that Weapons is a psychological thriller the way that Quentin Tarantino would write a psychological thriller. And that's what made this movie stand out among other psychological thrillers like Together, or the one above it, Sinners. Sinners is also a really great horror movie, and it is my number 3 choice. Sinners for me had great music. Weapons for me had a great story. And actually, if I just flip this camera around real quick, you'll see that I am watching Weapons at home and I'm playing the Back to the Future soundtrack. Okay, guys, so number 3, Sinners. Number 2, Superman. The best depiction of Superman, modern Superman, that I have seen on screen, because David Cornsweet really knew how to bring out the humanity of Superman. And that's what I feel James Gunn really hit home and hit the mark with in this one, is he brought out the humanity of Superman that we haven't seen yet depicted properly in a movie. I feel Christopher Reeve did a great job with his Superman movies in 78. Honestly, it's interchangeable for me between which Superman was a better Superman movie. Superman 2025 with David Cornsweet, or Superman 1978 with Christopher Reeve. That Superman movie with Christopher Reeve is literally the template for modern superhero movies, or just the quintessential superhero movie. So you can't have one without the other, is the way that I feel about it. And maybe people didn't like that you didn't really get Superman's backstory in this one. James Gunn just kind of jumped right into the action. But honestly, you already know Superman's backstory. You did not need to see the origin, and that's where I feel the Snyderverse kind of went wrong, like especially with how they brought in Batman, for example, because it just felt like they're rehashing the same story that's already been said instead of just jumping into the action and giving us a good story. There were a lot of problems with that one, but that was a big one for me with Dawn of Justice. But anyways, I digress. Okay, and number one, my favorite movie of 2025 so far, The Long Walk. As I said, that was a hard movie to watch. You could tell in my review, that was a hard movie for me to watch because you're looking at a society, a dystopian society that is broken, where it is okay to watch people suffering on TV, essentially. But it's a movie that needs to be seen. It's got a story. It's very heartfelt about brotherhood. Same as Sinners, it's brotherhood, essentially. And I just feel Mark Hamill was great, and the two actors that find brotherhood in it. Hey, Starla. They were really, really perfectly cast. Like, I felt like I was right there with them. It was essentially like watching boot camp. Actually, that's very relevant. It just feels like it's a boot camp, basically, and the major is the guy in charge who's just watching everything and doesn't get his feet dirty because he's above that and everybody else is below him. See what I mean about how it's relevant for today's society? Okay, so that's it. Those are my top 10 movies of 2025 so far. And now, my top 10 of, just in general, my favorite movies of all time. My own personal list, give or take, my personal opinion. You can either agree or disagree. This is what I feel are the 10 best movies of all time. Okay, my honorable mention, Goodfellas. I love Goodfellas. That is the quintessential gangster movie. I might interchange this one to put Goodfellas in the top 10, but Goodfellas is probably the best example of how you do narration. A story where somebody is narrating what is happening in his life the right way. Okay, now number 10, 12 Angry Men. This is a classic Henry Fonda movie that has pretty much been with me since like early college days when I watched it for a film studies class, because this is like a study of what it was like during a time before CGI, where CGI just made everything easier, but not really, because you just have 12 guys in a room and the drama and story is just coming off of what they're putting down. And this will always be my quintessential example of how you structure a really great character-driven ensemble piece. Okay, now, my number 9, Silence of the Lambs, the best psychological thriller, quintessential psychological thriller. I feel like I don't really need to explain Silence of the Lambs, because everybody knows Silence of the Lambs. At this point, we either love it or we hate it, and I love it for what it does camera-wise and the story that you get. And Clarice Starling is definitely a very strong-minded female, and I appreciate her for her intelligence, the intelligence that Jodie Foster brought to that character in the movie. Okay, now my number 8 is my one Hitchcock in this one. Same kind of 12 Angry Men, like one act type structure that's character driven. It's a movie called Rope, which is basically about these two guys who essentially kill a friend, put him in essentially, I'm going to just say a chest with a rope tied around his throat, and then they throw a party, basically. And the entire time is like a cat and mouse of, are the people at the party going to figure out what's going on, or are they not? Hey, Roxetta. I love you, Roxetta. Okay. pretty much, it's a weird choice because not a lot of Alfred Hitchcock fans talk about Rope, but for me, it's that one act structure that I really, really love. Okay, number 7, hey Starla, Sinners. Sinners for the music. The music is what sold that movie for me. Yes, there are vampires in it, but the vampires are not the focus of the story. It's the music for me. Hey, Starla. Okay, now number 6 is a Matt Damon pick that is The Martian. The Martian is a really, really enjoyable story about... It's a survival piece. It's a survival piece about being left on Mars and using what is at your disposal to survive until help can come rescue you. It's a survival piece, like I said. It stands out to me because Matt Damon is not a perfect character in this movie. He's arrogant. He's essentially Matt Damon being Matt Damon, but he's got that added benefit of being a botanist, the smartest person in the room, who has to basically network his way, figure things out for how he's going to survive until help can come get him. And it's just stands out because you really see him thinking things through, making mistakes, and eventually making things work. And that's why The Martian always stands out to me as probably one of the best survival movies ever put to screen. And thank you, Ridley Scott, for that. Okay, now, my number 5 is Doctor Strange. Superhero movie. There are really only 2 superhero movies on this list. Doctor Strange stands out to me as one of the better superhero movies because it's essentially a movie, a guy who becomes broken. He is a surgeon. He loses the ability. He gets in an accident, loses the ability of his hand, so he can't do his work. So he must figure out a way to get back to the way he was, and essentially finds a new way to define who he is. And that's what I love about it. And also, it's the only superhero movie I can think of where the hero wins by essentially causing his opponent to rage quit because he's stuck in an endless loop like they're in a video game. Essentially, it's like they're 2 bros playing a video game. They're stuck in this space where they're not going to get out, and one's just rage quits and decides, you know what, I'm done with this, you win. And that's what it literally felt like in the best possible way. And that's why, hey, Roxetta, Doctor Strange stands out to me. Now, my number 4, I should say, is Superman. Again, I've already made my arguments for why Superman works for me. Superman is my favorite superhero movie. 2025, 1978, pick your poison. You can't have one without the other. I just feel like they complement each other so well. Complementing is the right way to describe how I feel because it just complements each other. And I just feel like this is the best depiction of what Superman, modern Superman, should be, which is human. Okay, now, number 3, The Long Walk. I've already made my my piece about it. I've explained it. The Long Walk is number 3. Number 2, Aliens, the extended version. That is literally the quintessential example of strong woman kicking ass and taking names. Because it's Ellen Ripley saving Marines and facing a threat that she's already conquered once. She has PTSD, essentially, and has to overcome it to save the Marines, because the Marines can't save themselves. And I will always love that movie for that. And also, I love the practical in that movie, because the Alien Queen was done with so much of everything that was available at that time, and it still holds up and works so well today because it was before CGI and it was practical. Practical is always going to be the way to go to make things work that last for me. And my number one, Back to the Future. Back to the Future is my favorite movie of all time. It interchanges between Aliens and Back to the Future. Right now, it is Back to the Future. For me, I love that trilogy. I feel that if I was trapped on a desert island and I had one movie that I can have with me until help eventually arrive to rescue me, it is going to be Back to the Future, because I love the humanity that you see of Doc Brown and Marty McFly. They are very human characters, and I love them for that. Okay, guys. Well, that is my picks for top 10 of this year and top 10 movies in general. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed this update. My top 10s, they interchange a lot. But the main thing is that it is my top 10, and I have an opinion. I have an opinion on what makes movies work because I love movies. And I honestly feel that a top 10 should always be changing because we learn more from watching movies and exploring, letting ourselves just kind of get lost in the story to move ourselves forward. I don't ever want to live in a society where people just take things at face value and they don't question things. There aren't movies, there's no art. I don't ever want to live in a society like that because it just feels like it's essentially wrong, and I would never want somebody to just tell me what to like and what not to like and decide what is best for me without me being able to have my free speech. And those are my thoughts. Okay, guys. Peace.